I discovered the band People in Planes between September 2022 and July 2023, probably during a Spotify shuffle on YouTube recommendation that played on its own. The first music I discovered was Pretty Buildings, and as I unfortunately tend to do in these situations, I didn't look further. Sometimes you just prevent yourself from doing stuff by fear of disappointment, but it means you can also miss on nice discoveries. In this case for me, amazing music. Fortunately, 2 years later, I caught up on that mistake. For once, I remember pretty well how it went. I was waiting for the bus that would take me to work and Pretty Buildings popped in my mind because I really loved it. So I played it on Music app, which since an awful update can only play shorts, and another popular music of theirs played after Pretty Buildings, Falling by the Wayside. And then, finally I thought, hey, if I like 2 songs from the same band, maybe it's worth digging a little, right? Because it's pretty common that I only appreciate one song in the whole discography of an artist. Back home, I decided to play their entire discography, and that's how the magic happened. I ended up loving almost all of their songs. Not just liked or appreciated, genuinely loved. Dear few people, I'm grateful for your presence on my second musical discovery, and I invite you to hop on the plane to a beautiful melodic journey which will offer today's group. Well, even if their career is as short as a local bus ride. It all starts in Porthcawl, Wales, a city described as calm and safe. In an elementary school, a 9-year-old boy accidentally shoves a tennis ball in the face of a classmate, and that's how Peter Roberts and Gareth Jones met and became friends. During their teenage years, they were both listening to I Shoot Coco by Supergrass, and that's how they got inspired to create their own band.
They weren't really different from us in terms of age, so we could really relate to what they were doing. The first seeds of what we've become have been planted thanks to this album.
Small background story moment for the two of them.
My parents are musical. My mom's a pianist and dad sings. In Wales, they're really big on male voice chorus, and we've all been in various bands in our hometown. As for the writing, I started young and it just developed. I'm not nearly as prolific as Pete, who writes most of our songs. Pete didn't have a family background in music except that his brother played in a band, like my brother.
The duo was joined by bassist Chris Blight and drummer John Maloney, who they met during a local concert of Owen Money. They reunited around their common affection for Neil Young, Dylan, Pink Floyd and Beck's music, and the will of making music far away from what they used to know. With these 4 lads, I'll be able to introduce you to the beginnings of their musical career. They moved to Wales' capital, Cardiff, saying that city is impressive on culture while still staying compact, unlike London, which they find too dense and urban. Anyway, what kind of music are they playing?
As a band, we try to play a fusion of contemporary cutting-edge rock music, whilst retaining the warm aesthetic tones produced by retro instruments and equipment. It's alternative rock in the large sense, with a lot of attention to detail and atmospheric sounds and all, but that's just the icing on the cake.
So the genre is definitely rock, but some would add nuances of jazz and classic roots. And people, like me, appreciate the fact Pete and Gareth write their own lyrics, exploring the subjects of emotions, relationships, and human existence here in the modern age, a scary age and therefore an exciting age. They stay close to independent labels as value. The band salutes among other Biffy Clyro, Jar Crew, The Bees, The Edible 5 Feet Smith, and Fortet. The band officially starts under the name of Robots in the Sky in 1998 with the 4 main members, Gareth Jones, Pete Roberts, Chris Blight and John Maloney, all between 16 and 19 years old. In 2000, they released their first album, a 7-inch red vinyl with 2 titles, ETA and Muriel's Motorhome. Only 500 copies were made, and it's the first release for the label Complete Control Music from Cardiff. This caught the eye of the very new under-label of Amy Chrysalis, Wishakismo, and the band was offered a contract. Fearing legal repercussions from other bands with similar names, such as Robots in Disguise, they thought of a new band name, and that's how Robots in the Sky became Tetra Splendor, the English translation for a Spanish jazz quartet. Cuatro Esplendido. Now signed with Wishakismo, the band went to Audiozone Studio, still in Cardiff, to start recording their first album Splendid Animation. Except for Pollen Fever, which has been recorded in Jacob's studio, Surrey. During their short time under Tetra Splendor, they toured with Fun Loving Criminals, Biffy Clyro and Miss Black America, among others, and played at the famous Reading Festival in 2002. Still no idea who these people are or this festival. On the 9th of April 2001, they released their first single under the name of Tetra Splendor, Mr. Bishi, on CD and vinyl. Only 500 copies have been fabricated. They received positive feedback and are, by the way, the first release for Wishakismo. In October, they released their second single, Derail, on CD and white vinyl. The album release approaching, the band was promoted to the main roster of Amy Chrysalis. On this label, they released their last single, Pollen Fever. This will be the only Tetra Splendor song being supported by a video clip and a dedicated tour. On the 20th of May 2022, the band's debut album, Splendid Emission, was fully released, and 2 months later they officially signed the rights papers. The album received mixed reviews from the rock press and many disagreements arose, mainly over Radiohead comparisons and whether or not their meandering jazzy nonsense was a good thing. However, the general consensus was that the band had potential, and Amy Chrysalis allowed them to return to the studio. While recording new material, Amy underwent a management change, leading to many bands being dropped from their old contracts, including Tetra Splendor.
We felt like we were rock star at the time, but you eventually realize that you can't trust anyone.
Okay, let's have a peek on Tetra Splendor's tracklist. Honestly, at first I wasn't that much into it, cause I had discovered Pip first, so it had a bit of a downgrade effect on me. I ended up loving some of these songs though. There were hidden songs on B-sides, so they're not considered as officially part of the albums, they count as bonus tracks. So here comes the tracklist and the songs from the B-faces, which are fortunately available on YouTube. I'll tell you about the most famous ones and my favorites. Global Village is a very Pete song in its pessimistic and cynical tone. You're looking for peace while drowning in self-destructive universe, which stagnates over the surface when facing deeper problems. ETA deals with the feeling of anxiety one can experience when searching for meaning in a chaotic, ambiguous, and overwhelming world, where you don't always find a guide. The last lines convey the despair of wanting support and to find an exit. The title means estimated time of arrival, representing impatience while staying in the vibe of sky travel. Pollen Fever. As someone allergic to pollen, I find it satisfying and very catchy. It even has its own promo video clip. In this song, the pollen is a metaphor for something unpleasant and tenacious, resembling seasonal depression. The protagonist feels distressed and stuck even though nothing physically restrains him. He has to go on no matter the obstacles or signs he hits because of his altered view and state. It expresses overall frustration and struggle. CFCs has a name that probably comes from the airport world, where this acronym means Customer Facility Charge. This song is strangely less vague than the others. You can easily picture a toxic relationship where guilt, frustration, and desire blend, and a profound desire of filterless connection. Both interlocutors seem to have intense feelings and unresolved weight on their shoulders. There's a contrast between raw desire and a smothering emotional tension, which leads us back to these recurring themes of peace shut off by colorful emotional states. Unfortunately, Pip also has its load of los medias, and what made me surprised is that almost nobody of the few active remaining fans noticed. I'll tell you about it in details later, but for this album the source is a bit uncertain. A fan back in the day said,
"The best Tetris song is Bossa Nova."
Might be a troll, possible even at the time, or a misunderstood song, or a lost media. I've tried contacting labels and former players, but for now, no news. In 2003, while they were dropped by their former label, the four players were planning something, a change in band name and the creation of a website. Still having sky travel in mind, they chose their name knowing it brought up a human and modern universe, with a worldwide sense of transportation and adventure, still with this atmospheric vibe that you can hear in their songs. Well, when you ask them, they say that they just picked the least worst of the brainstorming. They hired their fifth member, Ian Russell, on keyboards, although he didn't work on the album, simply on the live sessions. They recorded their new album at the Mono Valley Studio, Wales, with producer Sam Williams, who is no less than the producer of Supergrass. Remember? The band they were listening in their room as teenagers. They recycled some stuff that hadn't been published back in Tetra Splendor. They trusted Williams for the arrangement and everything went well. Williams also inspired the switch in lineup, convincing Jones to take on more of a frontman role, and introduced Ian Russell even though they already knew him because he was an old classmate. They worked on a pilot album, this one in pink, designed by Airside. Airside? Let's have a look at them. They were a London-based agency specialized in vector design, animation, and business media. I like their work on the covers, it reminds me of indie vector video games. Well, unfortunately, they closed in 2012. They've decided of the design for this site.
Hey look, our website is finally here. To thank you for your patience, you can download 2 new songs in video color and baby card. You can share them and pass the word. Soon we'll communicate our future concert dates, merchandising and all.
Back then, Pete was loyal to his cynical and nihilistic self when he said this.
I'm being deliberately controversial, of course. Marriage between science and capitalism has created our modern world. We are too weak. There is nothing that pains me more than the destruction of our countryside and the rise of the oceans. The positive outcome of this would be spiritual unity and social equality. No one arguing, just treading water and trying to conserve their energy. We'd better stop being so fucking selfish and pray for a killer flu epidemic or a meteor to wipe out half the world's population. Then we've got a chance. We are mainly concerned with living to see another day. Thank you, if you care. Oh, by the way, I met Tom York. Unfortunately, I was too drunk to remember.
Around the end of 2004, they released their first single, Talking Heads, another limited edition in 1,000 copies, published in the UK in April 2005 by Trigger Industries. It had 2 bonus tracks in B-Face from Tetra Splendor, Remember Sammy Jenks and Clock Patience. I beg you, no more B-Faces, it's a nice concept but a real struggle for research, help. It was accompanied by a video clip which was also in limited diffusion. It was on TV, on the radio, and on MTV2 channel. Their song Light for the Dead Vine was featured in a music fanzine named Dirty Zin Pedestrian 01. It's around that time that the hype was rising and the community was most active on the blog chat. They were also starting to raise the interest of their fellow English speaker on the other side of the continent, notably thanks to a diffusion on Spin Radio. On the 24th of January, they hopped on a plane for their first American concert at the Mercury Lounge, New York. The press felt inspired to write funny headlines such as "People in Planes and Planes." A bit like our French music shows, they were under a voting system from the audience who favored engagement around them. In March, at South by Southwest Fest in Austin, Texas, they made a big impression if I believe what people said back then.
Where were you, Pete?
Hippie commune to do a little show for South by Southwest.
They met Jeff Klein, who they toured with in June. The Austin Chronicle did a section on Essex SYY, recommending them to the US.
They're with Jamie Cullum, all the way from the UK, and yes, their retro pop rock is that good.
And so good that they've been asked to play again for the following Saturday and more.
They're gonna be huge here. I mean, look at all the interest after just one show in Texas.
A particularly active fan had taken it upon himself to talk about them and get involved in their career, so much that I thought it was John or Jones when it wasn't at all.
Thanks to Joe for making the video available online. Please keep on voting on MTV2. Thanks to everyone who shares us. We can't wait to get to all of you in Britain and America.
They played with artists as diverse as Cooper Temple Claus, The Vines, and Jamie Cullum. Hey, I know him, he regularly does concerts in my city. Shortly after, they were approached by the New York label Wind Up Records, the biggest independent music label in the world at the time, which produced Evanescence, Seether, Drowning Pool, small garage group nobody really knows, right? Owned by the Melzer couple who aimed at them since their work with Williams. They signed a contract in May. The song Talking Heads was renamed If You Talk Too Much, My Head Will Explode by the label, who thought that calling it by the chorus line would make it more identifiable on the radio. Being all broadcasted like that, it reached the amazed and enthusiastic ears of a Hollywood star. This is how the group ended up on December 20, 2005 at the Ontario Airport in California, led by Joaquin Phoenix, no less, for a few weeks of filming. Well done.
The movement and the rhythm of the song gave me my first ideas for the images. I started doing some research on airports and found a couple of pictures from a Japanese architectural photographer and saw images of airports in blue and yellows. I really loved the idea of combining colors and giving it a really metallic look.
As for the band, they were equally impressed with Phoenix's visual take on their music.
The second we read Joaquin's treatment for a song, we knew he got it. Not only is Joaquin a great actor, he's a fantastic video director who has a vision of how to merge music with film to create something new.
The press had a rather positive view on them. Decoy praised a near-flawless, jaw-dropping piece of modern rock, nothing less. Their debut album, As Far As the Eye Can See, which has been the speculative title for as early as 2003, was released 2006. The single, If You Talk Too Much, reached number 33 on the US Billboard Modern Rock charts and hailed as a first burst of brilliance. The band toured the United States, opening for Blue October in 2006 and following up with the Bravery, VHS, The International Noise Conspiracy. They also published an acoustic EP of 4 of their songs and epic fail. This made me chuckle because they got it wrong on every single platform, mixing up the titles of Falling by the Wayside and For Miles Around. Bit by bit, they start to release music from their new album. Their song, Instantly Gratified, also appeared on the soundtrack of John Tucker Must Die and were given a cameo in the film itself, and in the series The 4400. They hit the ground running in America and winning over American audiences on record in radio as well as live performances, and an appearance on Late Night with Conan O'Brien and the Jimmy Kimmel Live. They opened their YouTube channel in June, where they post rather cryptic vlogs and live videos. The band stayed in the US till the end of 2006, and they returned home to finish their second album.
Right now, I live a few miles from Port Cole. Pete is just moved to New York and John lives in Bristol. Chris and Yan are thinking of moving to New York as well, I think. There's talk of all of us moving to New York. Even though it's easy to travel now, I think there's a sense that we could move forward better if we were all in the same city. Everything seems to be happening in New York.
In 2008, the first song I discovered from them, Pretty Buildings, was promoted on an online game called Metro Siberia. No idea how to play that game. One Man Army from Reddit delivers us his testimony.
I used to do street teamwork at Wind Up Records Canada in Toronto. I enjoyed promoting them and their 2 albums. I also had the pleasure of meeting the guys. It's a shame they didn't catch on because they were a fantastic band and probably one of the friendliest ever met.
In May, they kept on touring back and forth between the 2 continents.
We're doing some acoustic shows here in the UK, working with agents. Then we're going down to LA, to the Viper Room, which we've never played before and which is steeped into history. Isn't that the place where River Phoenix died?
Yes, Joaquin Phoenix's older brother.
And from there, we'll be flying up to Vancouver. It's my favorite city.
He's asked about his creative process by a journalist, to which he answers,
Writing a song can happen in different ways. If Pete writes something, his way of writing is sort of jamming, being outrageous for a bit, then the guitarist and the drums thrash out the sections. I just sit down at the piano. Creativity just clicks sometimes. You encapsulate emotion in what you play. It's like a spark out of the blue. When it happens, it's like channeling. You come up with something you really like and it just feels right. The only condition I require to be creative is that I definitely need it to be my own. Taking the example of Pretty Buildings, we sort of wrote half the song each. I wrote the piano verses. I was trying to come up with a narrative, a story about a girl told in a free-flowing thought process. It's got a relationship connotation and it goes on a journey. Our songs tend to be less obvious but more personal. We're really upbeat people, but we tend to write in minor keys. Really quite happy, balanced people. Maybe we should be a little more depressed. It would be a good reflection of what we write. I suppose we're channeling misery. Concerning external inspirations, for Pete, it's Beck and Black Keys' new album. Us 5, Biffy Clyro, a band from Glasgow. Lately, I've been listening to Park Avenue by Plants and Animals. I saw the album on iTunes and gave it a listen. I was really into Neil Young, and there are some elements in it. There's also a really hippie vibe to it. I just love it. It's an amazing album. I think most bands now are sitting around in vans watching whatever they can get. I like There Will Be Blood. Also, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? How you feel about everything those come out in your lyrics and music? We're living in a pretty fucked up time right now, aren't we? America and Britain are out of control. It's a really worrying time, so I guess it's in the back of your mind and influences what you're doing. You'd have to be really ignorant not to be worried. It's not just the environment, though that's bad enough. It's terrible.
There's also additional news.
I just had a boy. We had a few weeks off, so some of us came home to Wales. It's good to be home. It's a safe place to raise a family. We grew up here and there's lots of community feeling. We've got security. We really are lucky people, but when you have children, you can't help but worry that they're growing up in a troubled world.
On June, they finally made their project a reality and became residents of New York. They also announced the winner of their cover contest and played a version of Hall & Oates' song Man Eater. On TV, the song Light for the Dead Vine was featured in the penultimate scene of Wilson's Heart, the finale of Dr. House. Now it's time to talk about some of these songs that are real little gems. Remember Sammy Jenks? The bonus song is one of my favorites. It could be a reference to the character of Sammy Jenkins from the movie Memento, released in 2000. The song is about the struggle to not be forgotten and to remember things, so the main theme, like the movie, is amnesia. Barracuda is incredible and super catchy, but honestly, good luck trying to find meaning in it. This can be interpreted as taking risky actions in a chaotic and unpredictable world. The famous "if you talk too much" is on a breakup pattern, but is also about being overstimulated and overwhelmed, and needing calm and space. Moth talks about self-destruction, denial, and the consequences of your actions. I love the cynical line,
Where are you going like that? Come back and finish me.
falling by the wayside because it has its own Vivo clip out of the 4 of their entire career, and it's the second one I discovered. It's still quite vague and repetitive, and I think it's about giving in to feelings. Okay guys, I stumbled upon Discogs and I noticed something odd concerning some songs. I made a whole messy reconstitution linking every song with its new name, and I noticed some were unresolved. And then Shutter Speed and the dissociated version of If You Talk Too Much, the third incidental. With another fan, we figured it might be a song that might have been merged that they forgot to mention, or simply, unfortunately, a lost media. He had tried to contact Pete back then, who said, "I'll look into it," but never got any further news. Beyond the Horizon was released 2008 to the delight of fans who were able to listen to them live and who are now able to listen to the album versions.
Our new project was recorded with 4 different producers in 6 studios in Wales, England, and America. We poured our souls into it.
I can sense the envy they had to do something a little more diverse. For example, I feel a little Western vibe in Last Man Standing. Initial sessions with Our Lady Peace frontman Rain Maida provided the creative building blocks to lead onto the sessions, with Queens of the Stone Age collaborators 11, Panic! At the Disco producer Matt Squire, and finally Dove's Massive Attack producer Dan Austin, who was a long-term friend of the band from working together as Tetra Splendor and on early demos for As Far As the Eye Can See. This returning to record in the UK proved to be the key to bringing together the widely varying influences they had picked up in the American sessions, and ultimately provided the setting, Pete's bedroom, for much of the sense to be made of it all, and for a triumph in the elusive art of making rock records in a home studio environment. In March-April, they are touring in the UK. I feel like they have toured quite a bit in their career. On April the 7th, Pete posted his own feedback about the album on their Facebook page.
I'm extremely proud to have continued our custom of producing diverse and deeply musical albums which evolve and have a greater value than the sum of their parts. Beyond the Horizon was thoroughly worked out. The amount that we rewrote parts of the songs to make them perfect was painstaking at the time, but you reap the rewards for the time well spent. It was a huge privilege to work briefly with so many great producers, and nothing could be now more dramatic than being one of the last artists to work with Natasha Schneider. She died a few times after the album release. Those memories and the ones of being camped out in my back room for a few summer months with our great friend Dan Austin will stick with me forever. People always say how putting a record on takes you back to places when it first meant something to you, and I think that this feeling is tenfold for me with this record, for all the blood and guts that went into it.
On the internet, they keep on posting their vlogs and mishaps in their series Beyond Home Movies, on their own to a new American tour, where they had to cancel a few shows because of a truck breakdown. It's time to blabber about the music I like and what was popular on this album. Plus, this time there's only one bonus song. Beyond the Horizon, the title song is about disillusionment, surrounded by indifferent and control-hungry people. The narrator expresses his lack of self-esteem and his despair of a world he struggles to conform to. Last Man Standing deserves to be talked about because, as said, it is one of the 4 songs to have a video, and a really good one. It was also used in the series The Walking Dead. I think the line, "It's a jungle out there," is a reference to the Randy Newman song. You know, the one from the Monk theme song. It's jungle out there. Pete found the funny play on words between French and English for Mayday. From what I interpret, it's about the downward spiral of addictions. Better Than Life is a song that was partially written by the regretted Natasha Schneider. I have nothing else to say about the lyrics because I don't understand what's going on. Tonight the Sun Will Rise is my second favorite and is about the end of an adventure together, a story with a desire for destruction and the creation and hope that follows. Hence the paradox of the title, Tonight the Sun Will Rise. I Wish You'd Fall Apart is my favorite, and it resonated a lot with me this winter. There is an idea of broken hope and hoping that the other, supposedly someone who has hurt us, falls as low as we did. The chorus evokes the passive desire for revenge as a puzzle that we don't know where to start, and evokes an imbalanced abandonment with the powerful and poignant lines, "You cast me out like a spell, I was missing you like hell." There is a strong idea of denial and abandoning yourself to the other, even if it means rushing blindly into something harmful or dangerous. On the 2nd of June 2008, they released their EP Gung Ho for Info, which means enthusiasm at the idea of gathering information. I know, it's that very video, right? It contains 4 songs, including the radio version of Last Man Standing, the acoustic version of Pretty Buildings, and a remix that I profoundly dislike of I Wish You'd Fall Apart. There are 2 new songs, Baked and Lay in the Road. And between the two of us, things smell pretty bad, don't they? I mean, not the EP, but the situation. Well, believe me, it's not getting any better. Before proceeding, I'll tell you about Lay in the Road because once again, I didn't understand anything about Baked. It was also written with Natasha Schneider, so I can easily confirm that this EP is a compilation of songs they didn't release during the Beyond the Horizon era. The lyrics that I transcribed myself, no need to thank me, is about some guy with a loser soul stagnating and being desperate about it, to the point of wanting to lay in the road whatever happens next. On the 4th of December 2009, Pete logs in Facebook to write a post, album update.
Since our previous tour, we planned a working holiday to a remote little cottage. It's quite a shock coming from city life. On one hand, it makes you think, God damn it, why can't civilization regress back to this simple life with its pure simplicity? But by the end of the 2 weeks, it was a bit like, get me out of this void. But let's continue downhill. Anyway, we wrote about 8 songs for our new record. Yes, Pip the Bird shall be coming to you before long, and it's going to be epic. Epicness is the order of the day. Right now, we are en route to Zurich. I think I must have just taken some acid as River Troll just became the biggest selling artist ever, and that there is a sense of humor out there. Fucking takes the piss though, never even done a gig.
In May 2010, he's back to announce upcoming concert dates.
Back to do a few shows before we go in to record our as yet untitled 3rd album. It's been an exciting writing process, exploring many avenues and finally arriving at a new place. Mostly into the Nationals, Falls, Ravi Shankar and the films of Woody Allen at the moment. Also very inspired by Henry Miller, and I've developed a unhealthy obsession with the Mighty Boosh. It's turned out to be quite a nostalgic album. Memories can have a strange effect, and reminiscing is an essential part of life. To the point you could say, well, there'd be no point in experiencing anything without them. So this album is about the thrill of youth and particularly love.
Then, the void, the colossal abyss of missing information. It's as if time had swallowed up all fans, projects, and memories. From 2009 to 2012, there is nothing at all. Or I did my research wrong, but I didn't find anything. These 8 songs will never ever see the light of the day. They are written somewhere, maybe were started to be recorded, but will never be heard of. I don't know when or how, but the band announced its breakup back then. Nobody knows how exactly it happened. Pete, on his hand, opened his own YouTube channel the 31st of March 2012. Musically, his only activity will be a collab in a band called Cold Specs. And from then, the fans are speculating in the comments. Garrett Jones was arrested with charges of murder. Oh, well, no. It's bullshit based on a criminal with the same name, and trust me, there exists a whole bunch of Garrett Jones in Wales. Their ages don't even match. 2 fans respectively say,
I stayed in touch, mostly with Peter. What I was told was that Garrett wasn't into touring or even performing and quit to become a carpenter. I believe they said his father was a carpenter as well.
Anyway, since he became a father years before, it's likely that he preferred dedicating his time to family life. It's not an unknown route among former musicians.
I can confirm he is happy and well living in Wales. He is a bespoke carpenter and nothing to do with any legal issues.
Someone asked if him and Gareth were still in good terms, to which he answered,
Indeed we are, make of that what you will.
Smells like the end, but a spark of renaissance emerged in 2016 after 3 years without any news. Pete, Jan and John are reunited to create a new band, Guide Dog, and their first return pic... Pete, hide your horrible feet for Pete's sake. They opened a Facebook page where they posted sort of episodes called Who's the Guide Dog? And I can only show you extracts of episode 1, I'll tell you why at the end. They signed with Hy-Vee Records and on 2017 offered us their debut single, I Am the Daddy. It has been suggested that Pete had a child of his own, and I wonder if they made the album cover. Sounds like an attempt to insult, but it's a honest wonder. In July, you can discover 10 songs of their newest album, Lovely Domestic Bliss. It's composed with lyrics as crazy and abstract as ever, with a raw side emphasized by Garrett's absence, cause he conveyed a bit more softness and emotion. I think you can feel that I didn't like it that much. Other fans were happy to discover their new activity and to hear about them, but overall, it was way less successful than Peep. Pete posted 3 freshly homemade video clips on his YouTube channel for Ego with Genitals and Generation Y, and a solo version of I Am the Daddy, each making around 1,000 views. My favorite is, well, of course, the one that sounds like Pip the most. I was a cunt. That title is less abstract and raw despite his title. It's about using and disappointing someone with a loser vibe that you could find in some of their lyrics back then. The character shifts between arrogance and self-awareness. Oh, I Would Do Something is about defying the law with a blind and unconditional love for someone, very hyperbolic. After this album, which was a pleasure to listen after so much absence, they continued to release songs like the single Bean Juice beginning December 2017. They planned a few gigs under their new name in the UK in exchange for a few pounds, very far from the big festival they used to tour in. And December 2018, they released the single Deadbeats, then Generation Y in March 2019, and the last one, Body Shame and the Ministry of Loneliness. I like this title, in June 2019. And since Pete last tweeted on the 31 of January 2020, it's dead silence. No more activity anywhere. I tried to contact Pete, John, Jan, nobody. At the time I record this video, I wrote without success to their former pro contacts, like mixers, engineers, ancient labels, and the fact that they have deleted their Facebook page in 2020 is no good. I also found in my research a fucking 1 hour long podcast with Pete and it doesn't work anymore. It's so infuriating. Maybe there were amazing infos in it, but we'll never know. If some people are skilled with lost medias and all, it's in the description. The page isn't even archived, it's just the audio file won't play. Since I recorded this video, there's only one person who answered. I'll keep you updated in the comments and in the social networks where you can follow me, by the way. It's a former mixer and even him is telling me that he hasn't any news. The most likely theory is that they simply moved on. Just like Gareth, they probably preferred dedicating themselves to a calmer and more traditional family life far from public art projects. That's also possible that they got discouraged by the lack of success of Guide Dog and being constantly brought back to Peep. We'll never know for sure anyway. I'll keep you informed if a miracle happens and one day another fan or I receives news or an answer. I'm not used to saying that, but if you have liked this video, don't hesitate to leave a comment. I would appreciate that, especially if I have raised interest in you concerning the musical universe of People in Planes. Thanks to the ones who support my work. I also have an Instagram account where I post illustrations and some crafting. Thanks to No Whisperer on Reddit, Pipservationist, and Zoarid who reposted rare songs. Some of them found in some obscure Polish downloading site. They contributed in the slight survival of a dead and buried band. See you next time. So, it's very unlikely that any former member of the band will listen to that outro, but still wanted to say something. Probably something you've already heard many times, but thanks for your music. Every time I find music that I adore like yours, it makes me feel alive. And it doesn't really matter if the band is no longer alive. It has gifted us so many songs that are still up to this day. Honestly, yeah, I wish I could listen and discover the lost media I found and the 8 songs that got cancelled, all these things. If you could put them somewhere, me and the few remaining fans would be the happiest, I think. And about music, I hope you're all okay, just going on about your lives and happy. That's what matters the most. Far from people's expectations, whatever you do, I will be there. We'll support what makes you the happiest, what feels right for you, even if it implies no more music, ever. Thank you. Some fan from France. Bah ouais, je suis encore là. Moi non plus, je sais pas trop pourquoi ni comment. J'ai laissé traîner un doc en fin d'année, pas besoin de le résumer dans une outro mélodramatique. C'est fou cette sensation de vide en m'étant intéressé à People in Planes. Ça m'a fait comme contempler une étoile qui brille encore à mes yeux mais qui en réalité n'existe plus depuis belle lurette. J'imagine que c'est signe qu'on peut retourner dans le passé mais qu'il y a juste plus personne là-bas. Je suis animé par la passion, certes, mais c'est bien la seule chose, parce qu'entre nous, quel intérêt de parler d'un groupe que tout le monde a oublié et que même les artistes eux-mêmes semblent vouloir enterrer ? Est-ce que je continue pas à m'acharner à conserver des trucs morts par simple nostalgie ou passion ? Est-ce qu'au final, ce serait pas mieux de me plier un peu ? D'enfin lâcher prise ? Ils ont tout oublié. Ils sont tous passés à autre chose. Si aisément. Pourquoi moi pas ?
I hold no grudges, it's my destiny.